I guess, Max, at this time of the year, we tend to look back at the year that's just coming to an end, and drought will be probably the biggest story we talk about in agriculture when we summarize 2012. But for me, it has been a year of nostalgia, putting the book together.
Oh, I bet it has.
It really has, because I'm pretty good at keeping a diary. Since I moved to WGN Radio in Chicago in 1960, I kept a daily record of people I interviewed on both radio and television.
I remember you sitting at your desk, painstakingly writing things in there. If you'd been on the road for a few days, you'd come back and you'd catch up writing for 5 or 6 days.
And it turned out to be invaluable in putting the book together and remembering the sequence in which things happened. But the book signing, I just want to mention one book signing, because you talk about nostalgia. In the middle of December, went back to Ontario, Wisconsin, near La Crosse, town of 527 people when I went to high school there, and our farm was about 5 miles out of town. And so at the book signing, I knew I was going to get this. Hi, Orion, do you remember me?
It often happens.
It does. And I said, well, wait a minute. You can see me on television every week. I haven't seen you for 50 years. But they had a Christmas craft fair in the Ontario Community Hall. And as I sat there signing the books, I looked up at the stage and realized that in 1951, my 22 classmates and me walked across that stage to get our high school diploma. And the building is still standing, and I am too. So.
You know, that's remarkable, because so many of those school buildings went by the wayside. In my hometown in Indiana, they tore down the school. They saved the gymnasium.
Yep.
And you walk in there, it's like going back, you know, in time. It's like going back to the era of the Hoosiers movie as you walk in there, and you're just kind of taken by it all. But most of those schoolhouses were... demolished.
Yeah, and this was our gym and everything, but it was about half a mile from the high school, because the high school was a separate building, which still stands, but it's empty. But the Ontario Community Hall was built by the WPA back in the 30s and is still being used today. They do dances and they do country shows, and I did my book signing.
You know, it's often difficult for communities to save those buildings. It takes... You've got to have one or two dynamos who just won't let up, and they have to figure out a way to get a grant or to continue to fund the maintenance of the building.
Which is expensive.
Oh, it is, and the utilities, and there's always going to be something that needs to be taken care of. But when you can do that, quite often these buildings can be just such a gem that is utilized in so many ways. I mean, in my hometown, the younger kids can go in there and play basketball in leagues that they have. Older folks can go in there and they can walk around the top of the gymnasium to exercise all winter long. And on all of those walls, there's memorabilia. You can look up there and you can see Max Armstrong's honor jacket from... And it's just always, it's kind of neat when a community can save something like that.
And it, as you say, is a struggle, particularly in a small town like Ontario, which still has about 527 people, and people ask, well, how come the population hasn't changed? And of course, my line is, because every time a baby is born, some man leaves town.
Right. Yeah. Saw some numbers that shocked me the other day about milk consumption. Our milk consumption is not gaining ground. In fact, it is falling. And I was a little bit surprised.
Just fluid milk?
Fluid milk. You know, it's so competitive, for one thing. You've got all of these other beverages, bottled water, and these flavored drinks. And that's a big part of the story. But it said per capita consumption of milk is running like 20.2 gallons per year. 20.2.
Doesn't sound like very much.
I didn't think so either, and it isn't much.
When I think about what I drink.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. It was a drop of 3% over the past year, and I believe they said it was the biggest year-to-year decline in 18 years that we've seen in milk consumption. And of course, part of the complaint, the misunderstanding is that it's bad for you. You know, it's a fatty beverage, and
oh, everything is bad. You know, I keep saying my dad ate all of those bad foods all of his life, and it finally killed him at age 95.
Well, I want the world to know I've been drinking a lot of milk. In fact, you know, during the summer, I did exercise a lot as I lost about 35 pounds out on the trail, but I was chugging milk like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Delicious, nutritious, ice-cold glass of milk, so refreshing. I hope our dairy farmers can find a way to turn around the consumption.
Yeah, I had not seen that number, and I'm sorry to hear it. The other thing that you mentioned on the show this week is the sheep industry and the differential in price from on the farm to the retail meat counter.
Yeah, it's huge. The New York Times did quite a story on it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, laying out the challenge of the economics and the fact that you don't have nearly enough packers in that industry competing, which is a complaint that all meat producers seem to have.
The competition
it's
isn't
especially pronounced when you take a look at what's been going on and the swan dive in the price that we've seen over the past year. It's just been breathtaking the way the price has fallen. And you combine that with drought, you combine that with continued heavy imports of lamb coming in from New Zealand, and that's painted such a negative scenario there, as we've heard from some of our friends who, some in the Midwest who have a small flock where there are quite a few flocks.
Yeah,
and then,
there
of course,
are.
The bigger operators are in the West. One other thing I wanted to mention in terms of, as we were visiting here for this week's show, have you seen the Peterson boys video?
Yes, the second one.
It's amazing.
I tell you, they are so now. I interviewed them at the National FFA convention, and then the one who was in college was at the Agriculture Future of America convention. So I saw him again, and I said, "So, are you producing one?" And he said, "Yeah, we are." And they give their sister quite a bit of credit in helping with the ideas and putting it together. But these three guys are really creative.
Oh, a YouTube sensation. I mean, they racked up 3 million views just like that with this most recent one. It just catches on like fire. Yeah. And, I watched the latest one, and the thought occurred to me, I wonder, if Dad has just a little bit of a challenge keeping these boys fully engaged in the work at hand here in those days of summer. But it's really well done and carries the message of agriculture so well. I think that's why so many people on the farm are so proud of what these guys are up to.
And I would guess that with what they're doing, they're reaching an audience that you and I probably don't reach when we say agriculture is important.
Yeah.
And they do it in a way that attracts, well, as you say, a lot of attention. So
I hope to meet them someday. You have.
I have. I've met all three of them, and they're delightful people.
Well, I'm a big
really
fan. I'm a big fan. I want to meet their folks someday, too.
Yeah, it should be fun.
They've got to be proud.
Well, I'll be going to Arizona Christmas Day, and so to you and Linda and the family, a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. Same to you. Have a good one.
We'll be doing the Tournament of Roses parade in Pasadena. I'm looking forward to that.
You'll see some tractors there.
Yes, there will be.